Today's video is about a question from a friend. Okay, our training under the same master, which is Master Hong. Okay, and today's question is from Mr. Nick. Okay, Mr. Nick asked that when he is training. Okay, so Master advised him that because the yuán is not good enough, so he needs to use some technique. So his question is, what is my perspective on it, or my understanding on that? So to distinguish between technique and push hands, and how to develop yuán in push hands with so that you can use push hands without techniques. So this is the question. So I'll try my best to understand, but this is sorry not the real. So this is my understanding of Tai Chi and my opinion. So it could be differ from person to person. Okay. So my yuán is not good enough, I need to use technique. Okay, why this happened? Okay, so you have to go back to the foundation. Okay, so we practice zhuāng. So for those who don't know what is zhuāng stance or zhuāng stance that normally people outside say. So in Huang Tai Chi we do practice zhuāng stance, and you can refer to the video that I will attach in this video, so you can refer that. Okay, but all the videos that I do is not a tutorial videos. So if you want to learn, it's better for you to learn from a master. Don't learn from YouTube videos, because it's not going to work. Okay. That being said, okay, so the zhuāng is a very subtle training method. Okay, so you cannot use it physically. That is the idea. If you try to use it physically, it would always result to muscular movement, which is not triggered by the consciousness. So this is the difference. So if you want to incorporate zhuāng into your push hands or into your martial art, then it has to be done with consciousness, and you cannot use intentions. Okay, the moment your movement has intention in it, then that is a physical movement. So when you have physical movement, okay, your yuán or your zhuāng is not going to work. So there is going to be a limitations, because physicalities always have a limitations, always have a boundary. So it's going to be a broken movement, and when that happen, okay, so you could not use Tai Chi principle on that. It's not that Tai Chi principle doesn't work, it's because you are not efficient enough to use that. Your body is not, you did not cultivate it properly to use that. That is the reason. So you cannot use zhuāng or zhuāng in a physical technique, vice versa. But you can perform a technique consciously, or with zhuāng and with yi, with zhuāng. That can be done, but you cannot do or perform technique, okay, and you want to put zhuāng in it. That is not possible. You have to have the zhuāng first, and the zhuāng should empower the technique. Okay, so that is how it works. So always your yi, your zhuāng should travel first. Technique should come later. So if the method of you doing your form or you're doing your push hands, or you're doing your zhuāng is such where your your forefront is always your consciousness, then there should be no thought. There should be no thought process. Only feel. You're only feeling the movement. So if you are doing such, then it's correct, because you are already feeling how the movement is going, where's the yi is moving, how it's coming up, then it's correct. So, but if you are still thinking, okay, I need to zoom my shoulder, okay, I need to zoom my my hip, or I need to zoom my knees or ankles, that means the zoom is still not cultivated yet, or it's still in a very early stage, which is going on part by part. It's not continuous. One. Second is that the moment you have any external disturbance, okay, so especially when you're doing push hands with partners, so you have their force coming into you, or when you're moving, when you're taking a step, right? That's your own body, your balance is changing and stuff like that. And every time when that happens, does it disrupt your flow of yi? This is a question. So when that happens, that means if it's disrupted, that means your body is still not prepared to actually do partner training. Okay? Because even individually, you still are not capable to use your yi within your form, within your zhuāng, okay, within your kai he, okay. So if in this stage you still are not able to do continuously, then that means in push hands you sure will not be able to do continuously, okay. But once you are able to do continuously, then when you go to push hand, okay, that means you will have external force, external intention, okay. So you should feel your opponent's movement. That at that time you are not only feeling your movement but your opponent's movement. So when you feel your opponent's movement, okay, you can only feel his movement if you do not have your own thought process, your own intentions, your own conclusion of what is happening. If you have a conclusion of what is happening, what is your opponent trying to do, if you have such conclusion in your mind, then that is not yi, because that is you thinking. Okay, when you think that he is going to do this, that means the mind always works like this. You always think what you want to think. That is how the mind works. So you have to understand, when you are doing push hands and you in a field with someone, connected to someone, and you are thinking he's going to do this, then that's wrong. Okay, because you have already made a conclusion that he is doing this. Okay, so that means you are not feeling him, but you have already made a conclusion that this is what he is doing. So that is your mind working. So when your feel working, if you are working on with your yi, with your zhuāng, okay, then you won't have this conclusion. You won't bother what is he trying to do, because you are constantly feeling everything that is changing, everything. Even before he know what he want to do, you will already be able to feel it. Okay, this is how it progresses. In my experience, this is how it progresses. So unless of course that person is more conscious than you and he is capable of to control his body better than you, then you won't be able to feel him, sure. Okay, but there is very few people like that. So normally when you do push hands, okay, you should be able to feel, right? So if you learn to a certain level, then you should be able to feel the other person especially at least 10 years. If for those who have already been practicing more than 10 years, okay, and if you are practicing correctly, then you should have developed a minimum sense of feeling your opponent, okay, without getting disrupted with your mind. So once that happens, you see, the mind should be the tool where your consciousness would instruct, okay, your mind as to how to do. This is how it develops. So now I don't know how much you'll understand from this, but I think this is the best way I could explain for how to distinguish between technique and push-hand. So if you have an intention, if you are feeling, and if you have a thought process going on during your push-hands, then you should know that that is actually physical, which means that it is your mind, it's your intention. Okay, so when we talk about intention, there's so many things. You want it to be such way, or you are looking for an opportunity, okay, and these things happen. So when this thing happens, you would like to believe that this is like this, and when that happens, that's a problem, because that is the mind. Okay, but if you don't have this this mind clouding your view, then you will realize that you don't need your mind, because your feel will be your first defense, okay, or your first guard whenever you are facing someone in a push hands. So that would be your first weapon you are going to use. So the moment you expand your field, or you connected with someone, okay, the moment you connect with them, you will know every aspect of their body. So, and that would also make your body behave in a different way. Every time you do push hands with different people, your body will change differently, because that person's yi and intention is different. Okay, it's not same. It's not something that is same that you are using with every person. All right. So yi zhuāng is like that. Okay. So I think zhuāng, the moment when we refer to zhuāng, it can be soft. It can be flexible. Okay. It can be continuous. It can have all these elements. But until you have the yi that binds all this, which is consciousness, then the zhuāng is not complete, right? So once you have this experience to a certain extent, then I think it's easy for you to develop that, okay, in your zhuāng, in your tuān, in your tuiso, push hands, and eventually as a martial art. Okay, now that we have already explained, the next part is how to develop hunyuan in push hands, so that you can develop, you can evolve yourself to a stage where you don't need to use technique, right? So master says that your hunyuan is not good enough, so you need to use some technique, which is fair, because before you evolve to a stage where your hunyuan is capable to be spontaneous, okay, until then you may have to rely on a certain technique, right? So why is that? It's because the moment you connect with someone, it is your intention that is coming in. It is not your yi or your zhuāng or your consciousness. So this is the reason. So technique works best because technique is very physical. So the moment you have an intention that you want to do this, then you can prepare your body to do that. That is how technique works. So but to use hunyuan in your form, that means you cannot have a predetermined form, okay, or an intention or whatever, okay, because it's going to work spontaneously. It will work according to what your posture was at that time, what your opponent's action at that time, and create a response to that action, not a reaction. Okay, so that is the difference, because you are responding to your opponent rather than reacting to that person. So when in a push hands you react to someone, you need a reaction time. Okay, so from they initiate that movement, okay, you need a certain time to react to that movement, to counter that movement. So this is technique. So when you go into this, it is definitely going to be physical. So the plus is that it is more easily cultivated. Technique is more easily cultivated, but it has a limitation, right? So if you are against a person who doesn't know, then technique works very well. But once you have a person who develop a certain level of zhuāng, then you will see technique is quite difficult to use upon such people. Okay, even if you have people who has also developed technique equal to your level, then you will see it's also difficult for you to overcome these people, because then your both person, the physicality will be at an equal level. Then you will always end up in a grappling or in a stuck position, like that. So this is how it will happen, right? So you won't have the consciousness of okay, this is a person whose the physical level is above my level, so therefore I should use different element of zhuāng to counter him rather than confronting him. So this decision, if you are conscious, if you are using zhuāng, yi, then your body will naturally react to that person. But if you are not developing yi and you are developing technique, then what you will be thinking is that this person is like this, and what type of technique can I use to counter him? So this is a difference between technique and hunyuan. So how to develop this hunyuan? So based on my experience, if you remember, I've always asked you to, when you staying in Bali, I used to tell that you need to always find someone to train push hands, teach them zhuāng push hand. Okay, so we do. Of course, we can go with a different martial art styles, Wing Chun or whatever, and do push hands. Yeah, it's not that our method is superior with them or anything like that, but it is just that when both person, their intention is not to develop zhuāng, but to win against one another, so you won't be training zhuāng. You will be training how to win, and that is not the best way to develop zhuāng. So it depends how much time you spend to train zhuāng and how much time you spend to train technique. So when you're training techniques and you're training intentions, you're training your depending on your senses, okay, your 5 senses in your push hands, then you will see that you always will come into a space where it's always going to be a limitation point, you see. But you also need to do that, okay? At some point you need to also test it out. But most of your time you should spend with training with someone who is doing zhuāng push-hands. Okay, so that best is that if you have a student where you can also train them, all right, and then train to do zhuāng push-hands, this will give more opportunities to develop zhuāng. All right, because most of the time you will be training zhuāng rather than you will be training your mind. Okay, so if you train your mind, so to me, the mind is more of an intellect thing. So when I say mind, I'm not talking about consciousness. Consciousness is different. Okay, mind means you have thought process. So you're thinking this, and when you're thinking this, then that is already at a mental level. So that means the process for you to develop the zhuāng or the yi will be difficult. A lot of people translate yi as mind, which personally I find it's incorrect, because when you think to do something, it's not going to work with Tai Chi. So you have to yi, which means that as you develop, you will develop the intuitiveness. Okay, you will develop the intuitiveness to sense your opponents, to sense your movement, to sense your balance. And this is the base for consciousness. Okay? The mind is not the base for consciousness. The thought process is not the base for consciousness. It is your feel that is going to be the base for your consciousness. So, if you develop your form, if you want to develop zhuāng and yi in your push hands and to be able to use it at a spontaneous level, then you should train with more people who have zhuāng and yi. So I was lucky because I was in Tenam at that time, had a lot of push hands with Mr. Tam and with Master, okay, and you know, Kaniyao students, which they develop a certain amount of zhuāng. So because of that, so you train yi, because if you never do push hands with individuals who has developed a certain level of zhuāng, it will be difficult for you yourself to develop the zhuāng. This is my understanding. Okay, so by you yourself training and you want to develop a certain amount of zhuāng, it will be difficult because experientially you have to experience what zhuāng is. Okay, how it's work, how the Hunyuan work. So I'll give some example as to the spontaneous push hands and training to develop zhuāng push hands. You see, so this is two things, but even in doing this, okay, for the audience out there, please bear this in mind that you should get someone. Okay, this is not something that we will always put out on YouTube channel, because this is a training process. But you just look something at YouTube and then you go and try and train, and then it doesn't work, and then you will condemn the whole tradition. So this is an incorrect way of learning, because you did not train from the correct master and learn the correct thing. So if you learn from the correct master and learn the correct thing, it will work, it should work. Or else, that is not the correct master. Okay? So now, wait. So now I will show you a few spontaneous push hands and zhuāng push hands. Okay, so when we train spontaneous push-hand, that means it's spontaneous, right? So we are using what we learned. So push-hand start. Go. Right? So this is spontaneous push-hands. So now, if you look at how we are doing this, is that okay? He is just fine looking for my center. I'm just looking for his center, and then when I go in, so it's up to him. All right? So this is how also you also come to my center. Okay? All right? So this is spontaneous push-hand. This is good. Alright, this is good when you want to learn how to use, because in an actual fight the movement won't go so long. It will be just a very short movement. So every movement towards you is an attack. That's how we train in push-hand. So every movement towards you is an attack. So you are countering every attack. Alright? So when this happens, you are countering every attack. Right? So the same thing, okay? When you fight, you are countering every attack. So you will be continuing this, right? So this is how you do it, and then the movement is going to finish that, right? So this is not going to develop soon, right? This is you are using whatever you have already trained. You are using. So that means it's already inside. Then my job is just to use. So when he come for me, I'm just using, right? So I'm not developing my zhuāng. I'm not cultivating my zhuāng. I'm just using what I've already developed. Now, to develop, this won't be a productive way to develop zhuāng, right? This is a way to test. But if you think that this is going to develop zhuāng, this is not going to develop zhuāng. Okay? So once you develop a certain technique or a certain zhuāng in your technique, then maybe you want to find someone to test this out to see whether it works or it doesn't work. Yes, but this is a very short period of time, because when it works, it's going to work, right? But the most of the time, 70%, 80%, 90% of the time, what you can do is you can do zhuāng push-hand. So zhuāng push-hand is more, you're also trying to look for the center. Okay, but then there the winning is not important. You see? So once I go here, I can reach his center. I've already get his center. So I'm not going to push him. I'm just going to relax and see, give him a way how he wants to come back. You see? And then he is going to come for me. So here I'm just going to find a way as how. Here I just give him a chance what he can do. You see? So this is zhuāng. So now I'm just applying a certain amount of pressure, zhuāng, and let's test him out. So as he moves, I'm slowly doing fine tuning. Right? That's it, enough. He's already unbalanced. You see? So this is zhuāng push-hand. The reason why is he could not ease his tension in his body, which means he is using his intention, he's not using zhuāng. His mind is not, okay, where is tension, how I can zhuāng. It's not like that. His mind is like, now how I already stuck here, how I can go here. So that is mind, that's how mind works. So the movement will stop. But for example, if I'm giving like this, so I'm going, okay, I'm giving him, allowing him to take this. So I'm just allowing him to take here, he's coming here, I'm also giving, so 2 contact point right now, here, you see. So like this is 1 point. But the best, another best way is just continuously going, okay, allowing him. But at the same time, see, I never do anything, but he's already unbalanced. Okay, but still continue. Okay, because I'm training myself, I'm not training him. So I'm just continuing, allowing, continuing, allowing, continuing, allowing, continuing, allowing. He unbalances himself. So there is no intention. I have no intention as to attack him. I'm just balancing myself. I'm consciously developing my zhuāng, my yi, my center. You see? So this is how you develop zhuāng. So when you go and do push-hands with someone who just want to win, then it doesn't work. There is no way you are going to develop zhuāng. You see? And so forth, if you have a training partner and both of you all is competing against each other, it's also not going to work. Because if you are zhuāng and you win, it doesn't feel like you win. So a lot of people don't have a satisfaction of winning like that. They want to really win. So when they want to really win, you see, so they will resort to some kind of tension, some kind of method, you see. So they want to really put down the opponent. So this means you can't develop this method. So for me is I find myself developing a lot, training with people who doesn't want to win. Okay, rather than training with someone who always like to win. So when you train with this person, when you train with people who wants to win, it's best for you to train how to use your technique. Okay, but you want to keep these people to minimum. You don't want to have too many people like that. But if you have more people who train with you, which doesn't want to win, who's just training feel and technique and just learning how to follow the flow, the yi of the movement, you see, then this, in a long term, you will see that even within a short period of time, when the person reach you, he can't do anything. So at this point, when he can't do anything, that is where you reach him. Then you only need 1 finger, 2 finger to enter his center. Okay, but as long as you have a person who aggressively coming at you, okay, you come aggressively. Okay, ready? Go. Not enough, not aggressively. Like that. Okay. Alright, so you see, see, if a person is pushing like this, right? So this is also actually not aggressive enough. And go more, right? Right? So something like that. Okay, so I know in a real speed it will go much faster than this, but this is how a lot of people do push-hands out there, and then they include all this throwing stuff and this kind of movement, right? But if you want to counter this type of movement in zhuāng, okay, up to you. This is how it will work. Okay, so if I continue that movement, the injuries to the opponent is going to be huge, your training partner. So in that speed, it's not practical to train Tai Chi. You see, so if you want to train Tai Chi safely, of course you have to train. So that is why we don't do this speed, okay, in training. When you're fighting outside, maybe you can use this thing, but then it will be problematic because you will break the law. You see? So in a sport, probably it won't be effective in a sport because you have a lot of rules. You can't hit here, you can't hit there, okay, and then you have to put gloves, so your small movement you can't do. You see? There's a lot of small things that you do as a martial art. You can't do that in a sport environment. So that doesn't mean your technique doesn't work, because sport is sport, martial art is martial art. So at the end of the day, to develop zhuāng, you have to train zhuāng, okay, and you have to train with people who also want to train zhuāng. This is my experience, my idea that if you want to incorporate Hunyuan zhuāng in your technique, so there is no shortcut, and I haven't seen anyone develop Hunyuan zhuāng or zhuāng without having a good training partner. So even if you realize, you look at master students that you consider zhuāng, you would see that either their zhuāng is limited to their form, or they have training partners. They have training partners who they use to develop themselves. And you would also see that if the training partners is stiff, or is very aggressive, or do not have the yi, alright, then their training, their zhuāng would also be limited, where it won't be sensitive enough. You will develop a certain amount of zhuāng, but the sticking would not be correct, okay, the follow would not be correct, okay, so it will take time. So unless they figure it out, because the person who you are training with is probably not going to change so easily. So the best is for you to look for someone who has already reached that level, and then do push hands with that person. Spend a lot of time. Then there's a high chance that you would also develop. So, but when you do push hands, and your intention is also to win and to not to use zhuāng, then it will be very difficult. So that would be the conclusion for this video. I hope those who have any other questions could post your questions below this video, and I will try to answer it. And I hope, Nick, this video answered your question to the extent where it is satisfying for you. See if it's not suitable, okay, you can always see what is most suitable for you. Right? Okay, thank you.